Hi there. Welcome to the first of a series of podcasts from ISM's Student Senate. Our podcast will focus on leaders in the community and the wider working world, and we will try to listen and learn from them and see what skills we can use in our leadership journey. In case you may not know, the Senate is a group of democratically elected students who try to influence the day-to-day school experience of our students in a positive way. We are made up of students from all across secondary school. My name is Selma, and I'm one of the two head girls. And with us today, we also have...
Hi, I'm Ava from Year 10.
I'm Michelle from Year 10 as well.
I'm Margarita from Year 8.
I'm Arthur from Year 9.
So, today we have a special treat for you all. Have you ever been on an Uber ride? Have you ever ordered out with Uber Eats? Well, today we have Europe's leading legal director, Mitzi Berberi. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So what's it like being back at ISM?
I love it. Well, it's changed a lot because I was at AIS back in Nice. And I remember when this area was just the lower section, and that was it. So, no, loving it. I might ask you for a tour a little bit.
Yeah. So, what have you some of your best memories of being here?
So best memories, maybe I could say I joined when it was the American International School, so it wasn't even ISM at that point.
Yeah.
They seem to have dropped American, just kept international school since then. And it was fantastic. I did the International Baccalaureate, which was wonderful. And probably some of my best memories are numerous. Number one, the connections with people, which we kind of touched on a little bit earlier in an impromptu way. So some of my closest friends today are actually friends that I had here in Monaco and continue to live in Monaco, but also abroad. So in London, in Paris, and New York, actually, were the three places. The other thing that I remember most, my fond memories, were all the activities, and I hope that that's continuing. But
Definitely.
I remember it was like the yearbook committee, the prom committee, volleyball. I was on the basketball team to try to get out of all the athletic stuff that I was terrible at. So that was what was great. I did something called the Student Association, which maybe is the same thing as your student senate now.
Is that like a student council?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is basically what this is.
It is. So,
Yeah.
So there was that. So there's all these great opportunities for you to participate in different forums and learn from your peers, and also build something for the school. So that was good.
So where did you go to university? Tell us about your academic experience.
I graduated from AIS ISM in, should I tell you, 1993, I think it was. So that's age. You probably, some of you were born, maybe not.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Right, I'm really dating myself. You have to delete that from the podcast. Yeah. So I graduated in 93, and then I went back to Montreal, so that's my hometown in Canada. Went to university there and studied law and politics. I had dreams of becoming a politician, an ambassador to the UN, and change the world.
So you've always wanted to become a lawyer, involved in law?
From the point I graduated, yes. Before then, I went through various different ambitions. One, I wanted to be a school teacher. And then my father told me I cost myself too much, so I should focus on something else. And then I wanted to be a doctor, a pediatrician. And then he said, well, you got to think about it. If you love to move around a lot, etc., you'd have to certify in different places.
So you've always liked working with children, in a way?
Yes, exactly.
Because school teacher, pediatrician, sort of all in the same.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And then when I went into law, it was with the same ambition of doing something right and doing something good for society. Firstly with children, and then after any topic. The only one I wanted to stay away from was criminal law. It is fun.
In what other universities did you study?
Then after I went and did my master's in Paris, and I did Sorbonne and Assas because they're the two top ones for law. And then one thing I learned along the way was it's great to go for the best academics you can, but you also have to go for what's right for you and what you're looking for in terms of your specialty and your area of specialization. So if you can bring those two together.
So what were the main challenges you went through going from maybe ISM, AIS, to university?
I was thinking about that. One of the biggest challenges, I think, is when you become a senior, you actually know your school, you know your friends, you know the teachers. You're kind of king of your castle.
Yeah.
You're so comfortable. Sorry?
sort of like top of the food chain.
Exactly. You're like a big fish in an aquarium, etc. And then when you go to university, it feels like you're a kid again and you're starting all over. You might have one or two friends, but they might not be studying the same thing as you are. You're far from all of your go-tos and the people that you know. So it was really a question of adjusting and starting over and being humble enough to listen to everybody else, give you that advice and not take it as criticism. So that was one of the challenging things.
Okay. So what was your first role in the working world after university?
So first one was a lawyer. So I was a courtroom lawyer, litigation lawyer. So, which was very strange because when I joined ISM, I was very shy. And ISM and the IB actually turned me around. I was very shy, I didn't speak unless spoken to. I was very scared of giving my opinion because I was in this very strict French school, which, you stood up when the teacher walked in, there was more récitation, all this stuff, more than actual opinion and discussion. And AIS changed that, and I guess I couldn't shut up, so I decided to become a lawyer and get people to pay me for talking.
I was going to say, because being a lawyer requires a lot of sort of public speaking and leadership. Yeah.
Sounds like a dream.
Well, to be honest, when I got there, the first time I got up to plead in front of the court, I was very confident, but I realized I was actually still the same person inside, a little bit shy. So I got up, and when I grabbed the exhibit to start reading from it, my hand was shaking. Because it was one piece of paper. So I started learning all these tricks of never pick up an individual piece of paper, make it thick, like a hard, the heavier it is, the less it's going to shake and be obvious. So I was still a little bit nervous, but that was my first job. So I was a courtroom lawyer. I stayed there for a couple of years and then decided to leave and go do my master's because I came across a case where I felt that the outcome wasn't right. The other party wasn't represented by a good lawyer, or a good enough lawyer in my opinion. So we won, but I felt that it wasn't a just outcome. We won on fair reasons, but he could have put up more of a fight. I used some of the elements of his client's testimony to use it against them, and I thought maybe this is not perfect for me. So I went and did international arbitration, studied that in Paris as a master's. And then came back after that and applied for a role in-house. I thought being part of a team and going back to your point of working with children or kids, I like growing and developing people. It's something that I enjoy. And that's why I thought working in-house in a company would be perfect. And so that was my first non-legal job or legal job inside a company where I applied and they didn't even call me for an interview. So take that away as well. And I got so annoyed. I said, why would I not even be called for an interview? So I actually emailed the CEO. Here's my CV. I'm just wondering why I wasn't called for an interview. There might be another reason, but I thought perhaps this might be useful
that
for you to
shows
see.
The confidence earned from ISM or
That's
AIS.
right. That's right. We're so used to breaking down doors or at least getting an explanation as to why we're not getting something. Interviewed and then got the job. And then from there got headhunted. So I was in Montreal, then got headhunted to London, and then from there to Fox. So some of the other roles I had was started off private practice, then went into Fox Sports, National Geographic, Disney, and now more recently Uber.
So what do you think was it that actually gave you this sort of ambition and confidence to become a leader? Because you said that before, you were quite quiet. And so
I really think that it was ISM.
Really?
I really do think so. There are great teachers, and I hope, and I'm confident that one of the great things about this school is that they really bring in talent when it comes to shaping students. And there were so many role models in this school. And I remember one in particular, Mr. Wrigley, who was the English teacher, and then he was also the computer teacher at a time when it was those Cohen computers.
Yeah.
And he was great. I had come from French school. I wasn't really comfortable, but I was good enough to not be in English as a second language. I was in mainstream English. And he made teaching fun. He made sure to reach out to people and ask for their input. So, the quiet person is often the one that's not heard. And he would go and reach out and say, what do you think? And what do you think about this? And just never make you feel like you're in a hostile environment.
Yeah, it's really important.
And that gave me confidence. And I brought that into my leadership style, is what I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm. So then what would you define as a good leader?
So, many things. factors. It's not one, it's many, and they can be different for different people. For me, a good leader is someone who's kind of real and authentic, someone you can relate to. They're not going to pretend to be like all this, this persona
Very
of
true.
what you're supposed to be if you're at the head of a company and so forth. There's no reason not to say hello to people. There's no reason to not have a bad day and to be honest about it. And there's no reason to not own up to mistakes when you make them, regardless of your level. So I think if you can demonstrate that, you're a trustworthy leader, because we're all human at the end of the day. Another one is being clear. I think being clear in your vision and what you expect of people is what people look towards in a leader. They want to know that somebody's got it in hand, but it's also a communal process. So for leadership, I think communication is important, a clear vision, to be authentic, and just fun, I think. I don't think it has to be so serious and stuff.
So how do you try to sort of incorporate like the things you just stated into your sort of like, day-to-day leadership role at work and so on?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way I do it is, first of all, communication is staying in touch with people, right? So you've got regular meetings. I make sure that I have team meetings. And as I was saying before, it's like singling out the person who's not participating as much and speaking with them. The other one is having one-to-ones with people, because I can learn as much as others can from me, So I make sure to understand what the team wants in order for me to translate that and take it out. And then always have an open mindset, an open door policy, and understand the needs of the team, bring that back to the US, and then make sure I understand what the US needs. And when I say US, it's because our global headquarters are there. So you spend a lot of time making sure as a leader that you articulate what the global policy is and implement that, but also make sure that everybody in your team is satisfied with what's going on, and you translate that also. So,
You could even say that while being a leader, one of the most important factors of doing so is listening to the people you're working with, because what's a leader without his like quote unquote followers in a way? So it's like maybe working with the people you're working with rather than working not at them, but in a way like above them could probably also.
Yeah, absolutely. It's listening. At the end of the day, it's all communication based, and it's listening to all the parties and bringing out the main elements of what's being done. And influence as well. I would say that's the one of the other elements of leadership, is knowing how to influence. And influence is sometimes perceived as a negative thing. It sounds like you're trying to convince someone away from a position that they actually have. And as a lawyer, maybe sometimes that's what I'm used to doing. But that's not the goal. Influence is also for positive things,
Definitely.
And it's this power of persuasion that you need to have as a leader. So you need to understand what's going on, what people want, what the company needs, and then translating that into clear measures that you can implement, clear action points, and then advising, influencing, all of those terms, the outcome, so that you achieve what you were set to achieve at the beginning.
So what kind of challenges do you face then? Because obviously there must be some...
In leadership,
Yeah.
The hardest thing is communicating a bad decision or a negative decision.
Oh, yeah.
I hate doing that. And as a leader, you sometimes have to, at every level.
It's
of
necessary
leadership.
for improvement.
It is, whether it's feedback, whether it's somebody didn't get a promotion that they wanted. I guess, you can't have, let's say you have a volleyball team, you can't have 5 captains in the volleyball team. Somebody's going to want it, and 5 people might want it, but only one is going to get it. And it's all about how you communicate that. And that was probably one of the most important lessons I learned in leadership, is how do you communicate, constructive criticism to someone? How do you communicate an outcome that they possibly didn't want? And it's always finding a way to build from it. So anytime you want to give, information or a decision that isn't what the person expected, to really find how to change that outcome in the future. So let's say somebody in my team is looking for a promotion, they applied for a promotion, and they didn't get it. Obviously, if they're in the team, they're doing a fantastic job. Now they want to go somewhere higher. Maybe they're not ready. Now, how do we together build that that CV so that they can access that promotion next time? So it's always looking at it as a building ground, and not the end of the conversation, but just the beginning of the next one. So that I would say is the hardest thing, and this is how I've overcome it.
So would you give us any advice to so for people who are still trying to kind of build their confidence and,
Yeah.
in our school?
For leadership.
Yeah.
I would say, get in with any activity. I mean, you're obviously in the student senate. This is a great way of doing it because in participating anything from group sports to drama to all of these things, you're with other people. You're listening to what they say. You've got a leader that you can potentially learn from. You can aim to be that leader. So yeah, definitely participate in anything you can inside and outside the school. You can take a lead role, and even if you're just there to listen, it's a fantastic experience. It helps you deal with setbacks, especially when it's a team sport. I find that that's great, and as a leader, you want to be able to be the one who re-energizes the team after a setback. It's very easy to be a leader when you're winning all the time. Real leaders show when something doesn't happen as planned, and how do we pick up the pieces and keep growing and building on
Exactly.
after that. So, do that, listen, and pretty much.
And if you could give any of these pieces of advice to your younger self, how do you think it would have sort of changed your outcome or the speed of it taken to get there, to get where you are now?
That's a question that comes up a lot, like what would you say to your younger self? What other advice, etc. I think I've always been, I haven't accepted criticism very well. So I think that's the hardest thing. And you seem to be shaking your head as well, right, Arthur? Yeah, criticism for me, you can call it whatever you want, constructive criticism, advice, etc. It was always hard to, and I always felt like either I knew more, so when I was graduating university and I had stellar grades and I went into a law firm, even if the senior partner came to see me, he's like, we should do it this way. I'm like, you're just old. And you call it experience, but you're old. And I graduated and I'm the top of my class, and let me tell you how it's going to go. So I think I would tell myself, advice is not criticism, so do not take it personally, and take it on board and learn from it. And I think I would have been a much happier person, not so self-critical and upset at myself if I would just have embraced it sooner in my life. Now I really do. And it allows me to then not get emotional, not react to things, to really take it on board, think about it. I actually tell people, I'm going to take that away and come back to you. It's okay to take a break and come back, analyze it, and come back and then decide from there what my response is going to be as opposed to reaction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one thing I would tell my younger self of listen, don't get emotional, just listen, this is for your good.
That's really good advice.
Is there ever a time where you were clueless on what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Even today. Even today, it happens all the time because your career is going to change, your life is going to change constantly, and sometimes I ask myself, okay, well, should I have moved from London to Paris for this role? Should I take this next role? What is it that I want? Am I supposed to have a 5-year plan and know exactly where I'm going?
Yeah, it must be hard to always make decisions.
It is. And you know what? Some people do. Some people are very clear in what they want. From day one, they know that they want to do this, and then maybe 20 years down the line, they'll switch. I would say it's fine. It's not. I never thought I would go in-house,
Yeah.
I never thought for a second. So as long as you follow what your area of interests are, and this is why, again, get that experience while you can. Here, do internships for a couple of months or a couple of weeks in the summer and get a flavor, because that's what's going to let you know what you really want to do.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And